Hey, it's James. I'm in the Net News Ledger studio. I'm here with Charla Robinson. Charla's the president of the Thunder Bay Chamber of Commerce, and we're going to talk a little bit about 2014 and then heading into 2015. Thank you for coming in, Charla.
Thanks for having me, James. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays, and to everyone else. What's happening at the Chamber through the year? What are the highlights for 2014?
2014 has been a really busy year. We've been involved on all three levels of government. We've been quite involved on the municipal side, talking about the impact of our increasing taxes and the need for the city to take a look at their spending habits so that we can try to bring those taxes a little more in line with what we're seeing in other jurisdictions to make us more competitive. So that was a lot of, we did a lot of meetings and discussions with City Council around that, and then of course we went into a municipal election and we talked about that a fair bit, and now we're going to be going into another municipal budget series in January.
And it appears that some of the council and even the mayor are now starting to warn people that this is going to be an expensive year. There's a lot of projects coming. So,
yeah, really a concern actually. We sort of knew this was coming. Based on the work that we did last year, we did a study that showed the trend and showed that the expenses have been going up higher than really is sustainable based on the growth of the city. And so that last year we were a little bit ahead of maybe a little bit ahead of the curve, but this year it's actually starting to show. We've got a city that's facing about a $4.4 million deficit this year. We had about an $8 million deficit last year. And so a need to start to look at, perhaps, are there things that we should be doing differently? Are there services that are not core services where the city maybe should take a look and say, is this something that we should keep doing? Is it something we should start to do differently? Those kinds of things. So it's going to be a lot of tough decisions in the next few months for our city council, and we want to be here to help them, to provide some solutions, to provide some advice, but definitely to reinforce the message that increased taxes are, should not be the only option.
now at the provincial level, there's a number of issues of importance. One of the big ones seems to be the Ring of Fire and mining in Northern Ontario. What has the Chamber been doing this? In 2014, there was a couple of reports came out from the Chamber on mining. What's coming up? What should we have our readers and viewers know about?
Yeah, well, certainly in the late winter, early spring of 2014, we worked with the Ontario Chamber of Commerce and we released a report about the opportunities in the Ring of Fire. What we learned is that even though the Ring of Fire is well understood here in Northern Ontario, a lot of folks in other parts of Ontario really didn't know what it was. They didn't understand that there was a huge economic benefit possible if these projects can move forward. So that report really outlined the financial benefit of moving forward with the Ring of Fire. Now, in the time since that report came out last February, things have changed a little bit. Cliffs has, for all intents and purposes, pulled out of the Ring of Fire. They're trying to sell their mining claims. We haven't seen a lot of movement on other fronts with Noront and other projects. And so we're encouraging the government to try to make some movement happen. We know that there has been a fair bit of work on the Aboriginal framework, the regional framework with the Aboriginal communities, and we think that work needs to continue, but we also think that work can continue in parallel with allowing some of the other projects to begin to move forward for things like their environmental assessment. So we're encouraging them to move forward on a parallel rather than waiting until everything's done with all of the negotiations and then starting to allow environmental assessment. We think that can work in parallel. We think that the environmental assessment can be done within the spirit of the regional framework, and that would allow some progress to be made, because we know that business and stockholders won't wait forever, and so we need to see some progress in order to keep Noront particularly moving forward.
That seems to be the big shift that's happened. The government's a little slow to pick up on, is that when Cliffs is there, you're dealing with a major, huge mining company, and now there's some of the junior partners are involved, and they don't have the deep pockets, say, of a giant, and so they have to be producing for their stockholders, or those stockholders could say, well, let's sell this and go to the next big thing. Exactly.
And so that's a different message than we had a year ago. Certainly a year ago, a lot of the focus was on Cliffs. And now we're recognizing that while the Ring of Fire, the chromite deposits will happen eventually, we think that a more measured approach and allowing some of the smaller projects to move forward, which will also then allow some smaller benefits start to accrue to those communities. You know, the benefits that would accrue from putting in a road to the Noront mine would be, you know, more than they have now, and they can start to develop those relationships and those understandings that what that means for their community, whether it means lower cost of food because it's easier to get products in, whether that means jobs for their folks. I mean, there's a lot of opportunities there, even if you do it in a pieced and planned approach.
Now, what about the federal level? What's the chamber been doing there?
The federal level, we tend to be a little bit more separated from federal issues. They're not quite as top of mind, let's say, to business. Obviously, we've got a federal election coming up probably sometime in 2015, and so we're starting to hear discussions around that now. Some of the things that we're starting to hear revolve around Ontario and how we can return Ontario to being a powerhouse in this country. We've seen Ontario become sort of a net loser on the economic front, where Ontario is actually losing jobs and other parts of the country are really driving our economy. And so we want to start to look at where those opportunities are. The Northern Policy Institute is working with the Mowat Institute on a study around the Ontario economy and some of the issues federally that need to be taken a look at. And we're going to be bringing in Matt Mendelson from the Mowat Institute to have a discussion about that, and we're looking forward to that in January.
So there's a lot always happening in the Thunder Bay Chamber of Commerce.
Absolutely.
So if your business isn't a business member of the Chamber of Commerce, how do they join?
Easy to join. Go to our website, tbchamber.ca, and get all the information. We'll be more than happy to explain the different benefits and opportunities from the Chamber membership, and we certainly wish everyone a happy and a healthy new year.
James in the Net News Ledger Studio with Charla Robinson, doing a wrap-up on 2014, looking into 2015 with the Thunder Bay Chamber of Commerce.
Thanks, James.